Advantages and disadvantages of SNS. These days, social media is becoming more and more popular with young people, especially for teenagers like me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube can take up much time in their lives. I will explain about 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages of SNS. The first advantage is teenagers can make some new friends. On Facebook, there has an adding friends function. Maybe they can make some new friends with this function. In my case, I made more than 10 friends in a Facebook group about gaming. We have never seen each other's face, but we still keep in touch. The second advantage is teenagers can communicate with others easily. If teenagers don't have their friend's phone number, they can send a message with Facebook Messenger or Kakao Messenger if they have their friends on their friend list. I don't have most of my friends' phone number, but I contact my friends by using the Messenger function. The third advantage is teenagers can get some new information through SNS without time and space constraints. Teenagers can see news that they can watch on TV. They can also find some good items to buy. Also, they can see what their friends are doing or where they are. The first disadvantage is teenagers can spend too much time in SNS. According to a survey of almost 3,000 teenagers, 18% of the teenagers responded that they use SNS for more than 5 hours every day. Also, 19% of the teenagers spend more than 2 or 3 hours on SNS each day. Especially, they say they were using SNS on their smartphone for a long time. This can cause neck disc injury called turtleneck and dry eye syndrome. The second disadvantage is teenagers can be exposed to wrong information. Most of the posts on the internet aren't censored. Therefore, the credibility of the information is low. If someone spreads rumor, it can form a bad public opinion. This day, we often hear about fake news. For example, in the last US presidential election, many people thought Hillary Clinton would be elected. However, Hillary's fake news was spread through the SNS and her approval rating was reduced. As a result, Donald Trump was elected.
Yeah, go ahead.
The third disadvantage is there is a risk of exposure of personal information. Personal information can be exposed when someone is using SNS. For example, Facebook has a function which indicates where someone is posted from. Therefore, a personal location can be exposed without them knowing about it. I have explained the pros and cons about SNS. I think the disadvantages are more than advantages. However, if SNS develops further in future, it could be more helpful for our lives. Thank you.
Kyle, I'm quite regularly amazed at how well you're doing with your writing. I hope that you should consider joining some English contests. I think you do very well. If you did some English writing contest and some speech contests like this, I think you could probably win without too much difficulty. Because your ability to write about things just naturally is excellent. So I really encourage you, and you're doing really well. So keep it up. Good job.
Just do it!